And now we move on to the first of two cutscenes. This one will show us when we have collected all of the fuel canisters. We're not going to know when that happens necessarily, but when it does, the fence is going to come down from around the spaceship over here. If we're over there, we'll see it, but if we're not, we won't. So there will be a scene that comes up in front of the main scene that'll show us that happening. A couple of scripts we're going to have to alter for that to work. First of all, the third person status. So we'll open that up in MonoDevelop, and we are looking for found item. Here it is. So the remaining items are going to be mine as a number found. In other words, we've just found the last canister. So we need to do the following. If the remaining items, which we'll copy and paste to make sure that we get the spelling exactly correct, is equal to 0. In other words, we've collected all the canisters. Don't forget to do your close brace, open and close brace for the if, and tab in the middle of if. We're going to do this level, status, state, machine, dot, unlock level exit. And that is going to be a method which will be in another file, but will connect via the level state machine. And that's a little bit too complicated to go into details with here, but just know that this is actually not in third person status, this is in level status. So we'll go find a level status. We can locate it up here, perhaps. There it is, in miscellaneous. So that's it for that, right? If the remaining items equal 0, then we call that method. And in fact, let's copy that so we can paste it over in our level status. And level status is not a whole lot here. We'll leave the awake for now, and we'll make our function, and then paste. And this is what the main coding is going to be. So up here at the top, we have 7 more variables that we're going to need to add or link over in Unity. So certainly if you want to fast forward through this, go for it, and I'll just type them in. Alright, so I'll explain what each of them are for now, and we'll look at them later when we look at the actual Unity scene. But the exit gateway is going to be the fence. The level goal will be the spaceship, unlocked sound, and level completed sound. You can imagine what those are going to be. They're audio clips that are part of the project. Then the main camera is the one we're using. We're going to turn it off and then turn on our unlocked camera, and then the level completed camera we're actually not going to use quite yet. So in fact, I'm going to comment that out. We'll do that later when we do the second cutscene. So down into the awake function. In the awake function, we need get component. You can just go enter. So what we're doing is we're making the mesh collider of the level goal, which is the spaceship, to be false. And the reason for this is we don't want there to be a cheat where, I'll just go back here, where you can jump up and in. Let's just find the spaceship. Yeah, depending on how you've made your fence in Maya and your impound hut, it is possible that Lerps could get up and climb in before he's collected all the fuel canisters, and you don't want that, so you are making this mesh collider to be false, so it cannot be hit before it's ready to be hit and be flown away. That's the only thing in the awake. And now we go through all the different lines of the unlocked level exit. So again, fast forward through this as I type it in. Maybe I'll cut in right here, and hopefully you're listening to this, that there are a couple of things to make your typing faster. Code completion, for example, so I'm going to go unlocked camera. As soon as I start typing unlocked, it's going to realize that there are variables that begin with unlocked, and so it's going to offer them up to me so I can arrow key up to what I'm looking for, and right now I am looking for the camera, so that one, and then just go enter. And then I start to type get component, and you'll see there are a bunch of get component sort of things, but the one that I want is get component, so I don't have to press any arrow keys, I just press enter and it completes, and so on. But you have to be careful not to pick the wrong thing. So for example, audio clip right now is being shown to me as the most logical thing, but it's not. What I'm going to type is the audio listener, which comes up now when I type the L. Yeah, I'm going to slow down right here and explain this one. The other thing when you're typing in code like this is it will tell you what it expects to see as parameters. When I go open parentheses, it's saying that it is looking for 1 or 2 or 3 things, and those things are separated by commas. So it's looking for a clip, a particular audio clip, which we're going to have up here, and it's looking for a position to put that audio. So as if it's playing from a certain area of the 3D environment. So play clip at point. And the other thing as you're typing away, I should be doing also, because we're almost finished with this actually, is building it every once in a while to make sure that you've typed it in correctly. So you go to build, build all. And it's come up with one error. So here we go. And it's just an error on my part, and you potentially make errors as well. Missing an equals false. So now we do it again, build all. And it's giving us a warning, but that's it. No errors. So finishing off, and then I'll explain it all. And that's probably more than enough, in fact, to try this out. So let's save it, check for errors. There is a little bit more code to do, but I think we better check this much so far. So in terms of explaining it, and then we'll watch it in action. First of all, it's got to change the activity of the cameras. The main camera's audio listener has to become false, whereas our new camera, the unlocked camera, the one that's focused on the spaceship and showing the fence going away, has to become true. I mean, we don't have to do this, but it makes no sense to have the audio from where we were looking, and then we have this cutscene come over, and we can't hear what's going on in the cutscene. It's the cutscene that we want to listen to when the cutscene is in front. And then it's a matter of making the fence, the exit gateway is the fence, making it blink and go away. Basically by saying this, exit gateway, which is going to be our fence, becomes false, you can't see it anymore. It goes away for 2 seconds, then it comes back on, then it goes away for 2 seconds, then it goes away for good. And so it's going to blink, blink, and go away. And I'll mess around with all these values, but let's go make this work first of all. So this is the level status, is already in the right place. What we have to do now is find the level status, which will be on level. And now we've got a bunch of these variables that we just named, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they all have to be linked up. And the one thing before I start to do that is just to recognize the game object. Anything that's a game object will be something that we've added to the level. So you can click on the target and locate it that way. But if it says audio clip or something other than a game object, that's something that's in the project folder down here, and you'll probably have to find it through the project itself. Probably the target won't work. And at this point I've recognized that we haven't even made the unlocked camera yet, so we'll do that right now. Game object, camera. When it's selected, you're going to see it here. And that's one of the things you probably should have done beforehand. You should have gone to the spaceship. I'd gone to the spaceship anyway, so I'm just going to undo this. And if you were someplace else, any place else, then you're not going to want to add the camera right now because the camera's going to go wherever you are. We want the camera to be over the impound fence, so you want to go probably to the spaceship and zoom out a little bit, and then you're going to add in your new camera. So game object, camera. And that camera should be looking at the fence. Right now it's not positioned very well. And the other thing that you're probably going to want to do right away, so it's easier to see what's going on, is give the level of this camera at least one more value than the main camera. If I go back to the main camera, we'll see that its depth is 1. So if we just go 2 will be a depth which is higher than the other camera. So we back to our camera here and we give it a depth of 2. And that means down in our game window we're going to see just the camera, which is the full width and height of the screen and a depth which is the highest. So now I can just pull it back and maybe up and angle it down. So E. Something like that. I won't take too much time to make this perfect, but if this is the cutscene, then we're going to be able to see when the fence disappears. The other thing is where we want this cutscene to appear. We don't want it to take over the entire gameplay, so let's put it up in the corner. You do that over here with the viewport and the width and height of the camera. And I'm going to put in values that work fine for me. Everything else should be all right. But the one thing that we do want to do before we test it is to deselect it so that it will only become active, according to the code, when we have collected all of the fuel canisters. And that's one last thing before I test. I'm going to make sure that on my level, I only need to collect one more item. Here it is, items needed. I'm going to make it 1 so that after I've collected it, the cutscene should appear. Okay, so now that we've made the camera, let's not forget to add it to the level. The level script right there, okay. So now we'll test it. And as I get knocked around, you'll see that I didn't look perfectly at it, but because I was being thumped, but I think it obviously went away. So that should be it, except that we now want that camera to become inactive after a little while. So one last thing to do in terms of code. And by the way, you'll notice that I did one thing here. I commented out the exit gateway get component audio listener. That's given some people issues in the past, so you might want to try it with or without that line. So finally then, these last couple of lines to get rid of the camera, it's basically going to be the opposite of this. So why don't we just copy this? Copy all that and paste it down here. And that's going to be on true. This is going to become false and false. Just switching the cameras around. And maybe I will test it one more time just to make sure everything is fine. And I'll keep my eye on the camera this time to make sure that the fence is flickering as we supposed it should do. Yeah, it was a little bit quick before it went away. I probably want to put one last thing in there. Let's just, before we switch the cameras, wait for a couple more seconds. So another one of these yields. Wait for seconds. 3 should do it. And that is it. Don't forget to save. That's really important too. In testing, going back and forth, don't forget to save.